Mr. Rohit Vyas, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Thank you so much again for being here and being our political commentator and the veteran journalist for this network. Let's dig right into it, Mr. Vyas, because a lot is happening on the political sphere and we really need some opinions, some advice, and some insight. Let's begin again by President Donald Trump. He again has yet to concede. However, the transition process with the Biden team is going on a full go. So how are you looking at this? There are still legal battles, and I've heard that he's lost about 39 of them in the nation, but they continue to fight for this. What's the point?
Well, there is no point. And as we speak, the Attorney General, William Barr, has already indicated to the Associated Press that there is no evidence. The Justice Department has found absolutely no evidence of any fraud that would change the outcome of the election. So basically, that puts an end to any future legal quests that the Trump campaign might want to continue. That's the latest information we have, and that's from the Attorney General himself, Trump's Attorney General himself.
Yes, for sure. But my question again to you is, do you think this will continue until the inauguration day? We'll just keep on seeing the Trump campaign just sending these legal battles, which they keep on losing in every state?
Yeah, he doesn't want to give up, so I imagine he'll continue as long as he has the legal wherewithal to do it right now, which means the financing from the campaign itself, the money that's needed to mount such legal challenges. Once you become a private citizen, it's not going to be that easy, although the Republican Party has committed a certain amount of money to continue these legal battles, but he can do it as long as he chooses. But once it reaches a point where a set of judges, for instance, looks at it, throws it out, and says, okay, that's the end of it, and that's the end of it. So I don't imagine this continuing much further, and certainly not after the 20th of January.
There's also rumors going around that President Trump may announce his 2024 candidacy for presidential elections on the inauguration day. We're also hearing rumors that he may resign 2 days before the inauguration day. Any insight you could provide us on that? And also, how are you looking at that, the fact that they're already looking at 2024?
Well, first of all, the reports that he wants to pull off a major announcement at the same time as the inauguration of Joe Biden as president of the United States is typical Trumpian. He would want the attention for himself. He would like to take the attention away from his rivals or those he perceives as a rival. And so that's no surprise at all. Yes, he would try to do something. Now, if there'd be huge crowds attending such an announcement, that remains to be seen. Some of the new information that came out about the election was that data showed that his having these big public rallies in the days leading up to the election in the first week of November had no impact whatsoever. It did not increase the turnout. Whatever happened in the election was expected from the very beginning, and his public appearances, the thing that he likes, the adulation and so on, didn't really make a difference to the outcome of the election. So yes, that's I've been hearing the same stories, and I think it's true. He probably will want to do something to outsmart his rival and take away attention from the inauguration itself and bring it back upon himself. Whether it works or not, no idea. As to resigning, he doesn't need to resign. As of the 20th of January at 12 noon, he ceases to become the president of the United States. The new president will be sworn in at the noon hour, and they can go on. If he chooses to resign as a matter of, resigning, he could do so, and then Vice President Pence would take over the next couple of days as the lame duck president from lame duck vice president. But I don't see that scenario playing out at all. I do expect, yes, something big he might try, that I would expect. And maybe it's just a rumor, but I've heard several of those reports myself. Right. And I am expecting some kind of, some sort of move that would upstage Joe Biden.
Yeah, this political chaos just refuses to end. We've seen it this whole year and really hoping it just ends by January. Let's talk about President-elect Joe Biden. I have a lot of questions in regards to him and all the stuff that he's doing in terms of his transition team. His motto right now is build back better with hardworking people. Let's talk about the economy on that sense. What do you think they need to do in order to provide economic relief directly related to COVID-19? And when you're
Yeah, they have.
looking at that,
The
and when
biggest thing is a new package, a relief package immediately, because don't forget that the economy has remained stable, and the stock market has been doing well because of the tremendous support from the very outset of the pandemic from the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell has done a pretty good job, in my opinion. The current chairman of the Federal Reserve has done a very good job in sustaining the U.S. economic output,
right.
in keeping the economy afloat, and trying to get people back to work. The huge part has been played by the Federal Reserve. They've been pumping in money in the right amounts to sustain the markets. Otherwise, had there been a crash of the stock market, things would have been much, much worse. So there is a lot of stability because of the economic moves. Now, there is a danger because because of the surge in COVID-19 again nationwide now. I think all 50 states now at this point are seeing unprecedented surges.
Right.
Some even more than in March and in April, and that's dangerous. And that also portends a very poor outlook for the economy. So I think the Biden team is looking specifically at making sure there is enough relief out there for the average working person. Talking about the working person, there's a lot of hunger now in America, which we have not seen since the Great Depression in the 20s and 30s. We have not seen this type of situation where people are going hungry. I saw a figure today that astounded me. 40% of Americans have been reaching out for food.
Wow.
Imagine going to food banks. 40%, nearly half the country, is suffering some kind of food shortage right now. That is a very scary thought, a very frightening thought. And so the Federal Reserve has to move in, the federal government has to move in, and I think Joe Biden is well aware of that. He's onto it. As you know, he's named a team of economic advisors, an economic team
Right.
that'll be leading that effort in his administration. And I think he's very labor-centric. He knows that it's the working American. He is the son of a working American himself. And he knows that the working American has a lot of dignity. And the
Right.
thing is to keep that dignity alive and going.
You know, the president-elect today called upon the Congress again for a heavy relief package. So before we talk more about the economic team, my question to you again is, why is Congress so unable to come up with a relief package now, months into it? And also this $908 billion relief package that has been announced by the bipartisan group, how are you looking at that?
At least that's an effort. The bipartisan group of senators said, let's try to draw a package that will be something of a compromise between the two groups. The standoff is purely politics. The Republicans do not want to see Democrats get their way. The Democrats think are trying to push back against the Republican resistance against them. It's purely partisan. And I think everybody needs to sit down, both sides, by the way, need to sit down and think of the average working American.
Yeah.
There is a problem. There is a huge crisis, as there is indeed around the world, a financial crisis. But let's talk about America. We have a huge crisis, the likes of which we have not tangled before. And the only thing that can happen now is to keep this economy going is a massive infusion of fresh cash. Cash that'll help the average American out there who is now struggling. The federal unemployment benefits will be ending just after Christmas. A lot of people are going to have no other income after that, and that's the end of it for them. The thing is, what do you do? How do you make this long term, at least go to March, to April? The $908 billion package that has been announced goes somewhat halfway, I'd say, half the way, because the Democrats want a $2.2 trillion package. The Republicans themselves had wanted $500 billion max. At least this bipartisan group came up with $908 billion. It does not include direct stimulus checks for families, as the previous package did have, but it has many other things, including an extension of federal unemployment benefits in the amount, I believe, of $300 a week or whatever, for at least 18 to 20 weeks more, something of that sort. that they've been working on. But the Biden campaign is going to have to pursue a lot of this. Now, this, by the way, the package you're talking about is going to be an interim package from now, or retroactive to December 1st,
Right.
going up to March sometime, until the new administration can come in and new proposals can be put into effect.
Yes, definitely. This brings me to the economic team that President-elect Joe Biden has announced today with Vice President-elect Harris. And, economy and its relief is a huge part of his first 100 days agenda. What did you think of this diverse group of economic team that he announced, which shows, 4 women in it, women of color in it. There's a South Asian woman in it as well. How are you looking at this?
It's an excellent cabinet, an excellent team of economic advisors, and those who will be leading leading the country out of the financial morass we find ourselves in. It's excellent. Diversity is extremely important, and that's been a hallmark of Joe Biden's campaign all along. He wants every person working with him to look like the rest of America, and the real America is a very diverse country and a melting pot, as it were. So, and they're not just people of color and people of ethnic backgrounds and all the rest. They're very qualified, every one of them, including Neera Tanden, the South Asian, the Indian American, actually. She herself is a highly accomplished manager. She has served with Hillary Clinton before. She was on two of her campaigns for president. And had Hillary Clinton won in 2016 and beaten Donald Trump, Neera Tanden would have been in probably the same position or another position in the cabinet for sure. So I think this time around, Joe Biden has chosen her. There is the Deputy Treasury Secretary, Wole Adeola. So he's a Nigerian immigrant, and a very, very qualified individual himself. You've got African Americans, as you say, women, of course. The first female Treasury Secretary in Janet Yellen. You've got the first OMB director in Neera Tanden, et cetera, et cetera. It's historic. It's historic, and diversity is very good, because now when you think about the overall relief you need to bring, for instance, to Americans, that diversity is what helps. You have these immigrants from different parts who themselves in their lives have struggled, as has the president-elect, and they will be more compassionate, more practical, more pragmatic in formulating solutions to the crisis we are in.
Yes, for sure. And just looking at Neera Tanden, when she was addressing everybody today, she spoke about her very genuine story of being an immigrant's, daughter, and her mom's struggle to make it finally into a middle class. She talked about how the government allowed faith in the immigrant community, and that's how they were able to build. Do you think Joe Biden will work on expanding this middle class and sort of bring back what she was talking about?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said, he's the son of a working American, and to him, labor, and labor meaning workers, are extremely important. They are the main engine driving the American economy. It's not the business people, it's not the owners who are more powerful. It is the workers who drive everything. Joe Biden firmly believes that. That's his history. So yes, for certain. That's what's going to be driving him. That story that she told, it's a very true story about her own struggles. But she's going to have a tough time, by the way, being confirmed. She has a lot of detractors, a lot of people in both parties who don't really like her. So I expect an uphill task for her to get confirmed in the Senate, even if the two Senate runoffs in Georgia go to the Democrats, and therefore the Democrats have a sort of majority with the tiebreaker by Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. I still think there will be, she will face tough scrutiny. So she's not going to be an easy nominee to get in.
And this brings me to a question for just our audience to understand. These are all nominations by President-elect Joe Biden, and they have yet to be confirmed. Could you take us through that process?
Yes. So what happens is the Senate will hold confirmation hearings. These are for cabinet positions, which require Senate confirmation hearings. Things like the National Security Advisor, et cetera, do not require, the Senate to confirm. So what happens is you'll have a committee the senators will be sitting there. They will start to question each of the individuals about their policies, about their backgrounds. Of course, they all will be already going through. They've already been vetted, and will be going through a bigger vetting process, a deeper vetting process, as we get into the January 20th period. Um, and they will be questioned by the Senate, and then the Senate takes a vote. And they can either all vote together and vote in a majority and say, yes, we like this person.
Mm-hmm.
I expect that to happen very quickly in the case of Janet Yellen, who is liked by both parties and is considered a really top and highly competent economist. And the others, it could be contentious. For instance, in the Secretary of State's position as well, I'm expecting a lot of contentious questioning. But the process basically is questioning. You come before the Senate, you're questioned, you answer the questions to the best of your ability, just like the Supreme Court nominee,
Right.
Amy Coney Barrett. The same type of thing is going to be happening for the cabinet members. And if there is nothing to dismiss the nomination or the nominee, they will then be confirmed. And it's a pretty lengthy, interesting, but a good process.
Do majority of the nominees usually make it through?
Yes, unless there's something very controversial about them, such as in the case of Neera Tanden. She's had a track record of making some statements that many people consider outlandish. She is heading the Center for American Progress, which is a left-leaning liberal think tank based in
Right.
Washington, D.C. And so that's going to be an issue because a lot of conservatives are not going to like it. A lot of moderates within the Democratic Party itself may not like it. Then there are the extreme left components in the Democratic Party who also don't like Neera Tanden for various reasons. Many of them believe that she was the cause in 2016 for the loss of the Democratic primary, nod for Bernie Sanders, for instance. And so a lot of Sanders supporters don't like her. So she's got a lot of baggage. We're going to have to see what happens in her case. Yeah.
Definitely. Super interesting, though, and it's great to see South Asian American women be represented on
Sure.
all levels here. It's absolutely great. Let's talk a little bit more about the different things that are on the agenda of President-elect for the first 100 days. He wants to tackle racial inequality. I believe it has to do with the COVID-19 impact and racial inequality in general. How do you suppose he go about it? And do you think Black Lives Matter is going to be a huge part of this as well?
Well, I think what he's going to try to do, first of all, is introduce sign a number of executive orders in the very first few days of his administration. Immediately, what we hear is he wants to reverse the so-called Muslim ban, travel ban. He's going to reverse that. He's going to lift a lot of the immigration restrictions, we understand. He has already promised during his debate with Donald Trump a path to citizenship for the estimated 11 to 12 million illegal immigrants. If there are that many still left in the country, many were deported by the Trump administration. So he is going to do a lot of that immediately via the use of executive orders. Now, if the Senate goes into a majority with the Democrats, in that case, there will be legislative measures to sort of do things to help, for instance, racial inequality, to discuss what to do about it, whether police forces around the country need some retraining and that type of thing, so you don't have this kind of issue where blacks are being shot in the back or, things like that.
Right.
I'm sure Joe Biden also wants, like everybody else does, for there to be peace between police and citizens. I don't think he wants to encourage any kind of disobedience against police officers. After all, they are there to protect us all. And I think he's going to try to do his best to make it an amicable sort of deal between police forces around the country and minority communities that have complained for years and decades, indeed,
Right.
of abuse at the hands of authority.
And it's just not about police brutality here. The issue of racial inequality is so deep-rooted in the American system. Do you think they'll be able to solve a little bit of it, especially with, Senator Kamala Harris being half African-American and half South Asian?
Well, because of the diversity of the government itself, the upcoming government itself,
Right.
that's probably going to be a moot point at some point. Because once you've got a government that reflects everybody, and every color and every ethnic background, automatically that should trickle down. The effects of it will trickle down the population, and people will start to accept one another a bit more. We all know that these past 4 years have been highly divisive,
Right.
highly unstable for the country. Um, we've never had so much of hatred, and discontent and impatience with each other as we have in these past 4 years. And I expect all of that to disappear under a Biden administration because his whole philosophy is coming together. He has already said it several times, not just once or twice, but several times, that he's going to be a president for all Americans.
Right.
And that's white, black, brown, Asian, whoever you are, he wants to be a president for all Americans.
But the country is truly divided, in terms of about 71, 72 million people did vote for President Donald Trump. Do you think we will see kind of an outrage or protest from these Republicans who voted for President Donald Trump in the next year, the year after, just like we saw a movement against President Donald Trump in 2016, 2017, 2018?
Yeah, that's a possibility. There can be. I mean, he did get 72 million votes.
Right.
And he does have his base. He does have his followers. And I think no one is more cognizant of that fact than the Republican Party itself, because they had tried to resist him in the beginning and then just gave up because they knew they couldn't. He had this very dominant personality, and he has changed the Republican Party entirely to make it in his own mold. And so, yes, there will be. You can expect, definitely, if things don't go the way the conservatives and the extreme conservatives believe it should, you can expect absolutely a lot of pushback from them, and maybe some protests around the country. So there will be. I expect a lot of that. But I think Joe Biden, the unique quality about him, in particular, is he is able to reach across the aisle to everyone. He is able to appeal to a wide array of personalities, and can handle situations like this better than anybody else.
I only have two questions left here for you, Mr. Vyas. The first one, I have to ask you about the Georgia elections. President Donald Trump and Vice President Pence are supposed to actually campaign in Georgia this week, if the news is right that I'm getting. How are you looking at this contentious race of the Senate? What should we, anticipate in all of this, or expect?
You anticipate a lot of campaigning by both sides. It's a critical election for both parties. The Republicans don't want to lose their edge in the Senate because that's where they have their value, and they're able to get things done, and they have the muscle power. If they lose that, then the Democrats will be able to push through legislation very, very quickly and effectively under Joe Biden. And so this is a critical race for both sides. I'm not surprised to hear that Trump and Pence are going to go campaign there. They would be if I were in their shoes and I was in the Republican Party. That's what I would do. The same thing if I were in the shoes of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. If I were in the Democratic Party, I would do it for that party as well. I'd be out there campaigning for the Democratic Party candidates. As you can tell, I'm independent, so it doesn't really matter to me. But from a political point of view, from an analyst's point of view, it is so critical that I expect a lot of campaigning, a lot of public rallies to take place. Yep.
Georgia has been politicized so much this year. Do you think Georgia politics itself will change?
It is changing. It's changing very much. It's been a traditionally conservative state, conservative leaning, Republican leaning. We could see some big changes now, just as the rest of the country is going through big changes. It also has been getting a whole population shift, as has Arizona, as has Nevada. A lot of people from California moving to those states. A lot of people from the East Coast, from the northern states, have moved into Georgia. A lot of people from the West Coast also moving into Georgia. So its demographic makeup has been changing dramatically as well. So yes, there can be some big changes coming up in that state. We'll see first with these runoff elections for the 2 Senate seats, January 5th. And that will then tell us what the future holds. But yeah, I expect a state like Georgia, with the busiest airport in the world, probably one of the busiest in the world, Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, definitely changes will be coming.
Yes, definitely. Georgia has been so far so interesting this cycle. You almost knew what the election result was going to be and it just flipped. And
Yep.
it's very, very interesting. My final question to you has to be, there are about 50 days left until Inauguration Day. I want your predictions about what is going to happen in terms of President-elect Joe Biden and also President Donald Trump.
My prediction is President Donald Trump will, just be over with his presidency. He probably will hold an event on Inauguration Day to make an announcement, as we've been hearing. I don't expect a major resistance to the new president coming in. I don't think President Trump would go that far. I think he will. He knows he can go back home comfortably. He's certainly well off personally, even though we've heard a lot of scandals about his finances and things. But he's well off personally. He'll go away for a while, but he's not going to go away entirely. He will be back. He's going to make sure that his presence is felt. I expect him to be continuing to do a lot of tweeting personally. I expect him to be making a lot of personal appearances at political rallies, and I expect him to tighten his control further over the Republican Party. So anything the Republicans do going forward the next 4 years, Donald Trump is going to have a hand in it. Unless he just gets bored and throws up his hands and says, I'm done with politics, which I don't think will happen. I think he will continue.
And what about in terms of President-elect Joe Biden?
Joe Biden is going to go ahead. He'll plod along with his agenda. He's very focused on what he wants to do. His first priority is going to be the economy, getting rid of COVID-19, making sure the vaccination distribution is smooth and that every American is vaccinated. And then he's also going to be immediately setting out, by the way, not just immigration and local issues, he will be setting out to repair U.S. relations on the international stage. And that is extremely critical. One of the big jobs he has now is to deal with Iran, especially in the aftermath of the assassination of their top nuclear scientists. It complicates matters for Joe Biden on the international stage. So he's going to have a lot of work cut out for him. He's going to be very busy internationally, very busy domestically, but he is extremely focused. Yeah. He knows what he wants to do. He's the man with the experience, over 42 years of experience in politics, in world affairs, in running things. He's extremely focused and intelligent. I expect it to be a very fruitful 4 years of the Biden administration.
And let's face it, he is on the side of science, and we really need that for coronavirus especially. Thank you so much for your time here on ITV Gold.
Thank you.